Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Wellbeing Podcast, where we discuss all things health, fitness, real estate, entrepreneurship, and business. My name is Zach Bush. I am your host, and today I have a very special guest, good friend of mine, owner of CrossFit Raid here outside of Philadelphia. I'd like to welcome Justin Rementer to the podcast. Justin, thank you so much for hopping on with me today.
Of course, thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me to be on, and thank you for getting my last name right.
I'm always nervous because I feel like I know it.
Yeah.
For you and anybody else, and I go to say it, and then I'm like, I second guess, like, oh man, am I going to screw this up? And then they're going to correct me, and I'm like an idiot, or they're just going to roll with it, and I'm just going to pronounce their name wrong for the rest of time.
Right. Yeah. It's usually like a 50-50 with mine. So good job.
What do you usually hear? Because it's pretty phonetic, right? I mean, I don't know.
It's pretty straightforward. The only other thing I really get is like Rementer, but just like bad emphasis. Rementer, just like something like that. So not too bad, but yeah, it's usually 50-50.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, obviously I've known you for, a really long time, since original, CrossFit Generation days.
It's been a while
and
now.
all that. So why don't you introduce yourself, give everybody a little background on you, kind of where you came from, both health and fitness wise, and now obviously owner of a CrossFit gym, and how that all started, and, kind of the journey that got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so my name's Justin Rementer. I've been a CrossFit affiliate owner for actually the 29th of June will be 10 years. I started off at CrossFit Generation, where Zach is heavily involved, back in 2010. One of the other coaches there, Mike, was actually the DJ. He's actually one of my best friend's cousins, and he was a DJ at the bar that I was working at the time. And he knew I was into, just general fitness and exercise, and hey, come check this gym out I've been going to. I think you'll like it. So dropped in it was a Fight Gone Bad fundraiser for Wounded Warriors on a Saturday. And that was my first actual in-gym CrossFit experience, which is very different than trying to replicate any CrossFit workouts that you see in your college's gym or whatever. And got hooked right away. Was a member of Generation for 4 years on and off. Between college, would have to take some time off here and there. Was a business major in college, but that really had hit it home for me that that's what I wanted to do. Like after I was a member for a couple of years, and really got bit with the bug hard. Ended up going to personal training school, getting my L1 while I was got my my bachelor's, went to grad school for like a year and a semester for human resources. And finally I was like, this isn't what I want to do. Dropped out, much to the delight of my family, dropping out of grad school as like the really the only child in the family that was going to college at the time. To get into the fitness world was kind of like, not frowned upon, but they were questioning the decision a little bit. And opened the gym in 2014 when I was 25, and have been on a roller coaster, is an understatement, since then as a business owner.
Awesome. So just to back up a little bit, so the health and fitness stuff, right? You said, a mutual friend of ours, Mike, kind of got you to come and do, the Fight Gone Bad workout, which, for anybody who doesn't know, what is the Fight Gone Bad workout, just as a,
so Fight Gone Bad is a CrossFit, I guess, a benchmark, 3 5-minute rounds with a minute of rest in between. Each 5-minute round consists of 1-minute intervals. And it's been a while, but I might be out of order as well. But rowing, wall balls, sumo deadlift, high pull, box jumps.
Yep.
And I'm missing one.
Push
Shoulder
press?
overhead? Push press? Yeah, push press. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I'll never, ever forget that, because my health and fitness journey started just after high school. I didn't play organized sports. I didn't go to the gym all through high school. Started working out probably like the last maybe month of high school, and then lived in Wildwood for the summer after I graduated, and went to a Tilly's gym down there with some of my friends. And from there, just kind of like your standard, Globo Gym, bodybuilding splits, all that stuff. So when I came to Generation for Fight Gone Bad, I think 20. I had just turned 21 a little bit before that. So 21-year-old meathead, like, I always say, like, peak confidence, doesn't get more confident than that.
Yep.
And I threw up after the first round. I drank my like normal pre-workout. I had bartended the night before, so I was on like 3 hours of sleep, and I got through that first round and just like tunnel vision. I remember going outside of the garage and puking I think I puked on the side of the building, and I can't remember her name. But we had judges at the time because it was a fundraiser, and she was trying to encourage me, and I felt like I was letting her down so much because like I couldn't function after that, but I tried. But like after that, I was like, all right, I thought I was in good shape, and apparently not.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 15-minute workout, 1-minute intervals at each. You got a built-in rest there. You look at it and you're like, all right, that doesn't look that bad. And that's like quintessential CrossFit. Like when you see a workout and you're like, okay, that doesn't look horrible. That after doing it for so long, I mean, you've been doing it for just as long as I have, probably 15 years, right? And you look now through the 15 years, you learn, all right, this is going to be way worse than it looks. It always is. It's never as it is. And especially like you mentioned, as a 21-year-old, I remember I started when I was 16, 17, and still going through now.
Yeah.
I remember being like, oh, I played soccer and all that stuff. Like, I'll be fine. I've worked out before. Like, it'll be fine. And just going balls to the wall from the beginning, not knowing how to pace yourself and just slamming it. And that's why, I think that's why initially CrossFit got a bad name, because you have those young, dumb kids like we were just diving into it full force. Then we throw up because we were partying out the night before. The amount of times I would go to a Saturday morning workout and be hungover. I was out the night before. It's like, that's really the issue. It's not necessarily CrossFit. It's young, dumb teenager.
We're just idiots. Yeah. At least you had like the soccer background. I went in like, oh, like I, bench and do curls. Like I could do this. And pacing. I remember my first minute of rowing, I did like 28 calories. And at the time, like I had zero conditioning. I was just like a little strong. So from the first minute, I was done. And like, if anyone's not familiar with CrossFit, like 28 calories in a minute isn't like a world record or anything, but it's like not the most intelligent thing to do, especially if you have zero experience.
Yeah.
So I probably should have done maybe half of that, but
yeah. So you mentioned, right, you didn't have any, you didn't play sports or anything. You kind of just jumped into it at the end of high school. What was the catalyst to get you into the gym at all at the end of high school?
I think just my friends asked me like, hey, do you want to start coming to, it was a local gym in Northeast Philly, like mom and pop kind of little gym. Like, hey, do you want to come start lifting with us? The one of them had lost a ton of weight in high school, and actually, he's a really good hockey player. Ended up being known by senior year as like the strong jack guy, when like, earlier in high school, he was like a big kid. I just thought that was cool. I was always like a little chubby kid. And then by the time we got into, lifting like that summer, I was like, all in on like talking about, partying the night before. We were a bunch of 18-year-olds with a shore house in Wildwood for the summer. Like, that's all we did every night. So every day was wake up hungover, walk to a Tilly's, sweat it out. And then I worked at a surf shop in Wildwood that summer. It was just like on repeat every day.
And so so it was really just like the group that you were with. That's just what you did.
Yeah, same guys that got me into it at home. I lived with them at the shore house, so it's kind of just like rolled into that. And then that summer, I ended up losing 30 pounds. Just not even like trying to necessarily, just work. Like, I guess it was like a good recipe, because all we would do is, I mean, minus the drinking every night, but we would work out every day. And there was an Acme right by our house, and we would all get just like chicken and London broils. Like London broils were like $5 for like a whole 1 pound. And I would just like, our landlord had a Weber kettle grill out back. So I would just like grill meat, and that's what we would eat all the time. So like, I probably didn't have a vegetable that whole summer, but like, you're just eating protein and working out as an 18-year-old. Like, so I dropped 30 pounds, came home in August. My mom was like, who the hell are you? And, just got hooked from that.
Nice. Yeah. I think the biggest thing too, after doing a handful of interviews and just knowing like being around people who are doing the same thing, right? Even if it is you guys are all partying, right? You're 18 years old, like naturally that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to the gym with them, right? If you were with, a group of kids or a group of guys that didn't care about working out but were still out partying, right? You were probably going to party and then not work out with them.
Yeah.
So just even though not everything was perfect or as ideal as it would be to lose weight, it was the group that kind of just, you're like, all right, they're doing it, I'm just going to do it too. It's just there's no options.
For sure, because we had friends like in different houses down there. That was like the typical thing for people from our neighborhood to do was you have a shore house for the summer in Wildwood, and we were probably the only house that had a dedicated group of like 3 to 4 guys that would go and work out every day. And there certainly were groups that partied the night before and then just like waited for the next night to come. So yeah, I definitely fell in line with the right group, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And so, you go through that summer and then you get through the summer, right? And you're I guess you come back home. Are you still with those same guys? Are you still in the gym with them? Or like, what is that routine? What does that shift look like?
Yep. Same guys, Gold's Gym in Northeast Philly. We went there for a couple years. That was like just the routine. You would go to work, or go to school. Like I was in community college at the time. We would go to classes and work and go to the gym, and that was it. And then that gym closed down, so we joined the same gym together, World's Gym, right down the road from the original Gold Gym. It was mainly me and one of the other guys, one of my closest friends at the time. Kind of just like as we would move along from gym to gym, we were always at the gym together. And he was one of the ones that originally got me into lifting. So for a solid from 2006 to 09 ish, something like that. It was like me and the same people lifting together.
Nice. Yeah. And then I guess from there you found CrossFit and kind of went into that whole
world. So like in that in between, like the 09 to 010, like when I was I went to where I ended up graduating from, Holy Family. Me and Mike Donofrio's cousin, Bry, who was like one of my best friends since like 5th grade, would work out at Holy Family Gym together. And that's when we started trying to we were always looking for something, different than just the splits. So we would do a lot of dumb stuff. The one time we bought like sparring gear and we were like, all right, good cardio workout. We'll neither of us have any combat sport background. Bought sparring gear, went in the racquetball court at like 6 a.m. where there's no circulation. And it was not a good idea. Like 8 a.m. class that day really sucked with a headache from getting punched in the face. So we never did that again. But we were always looking for something else. And that's why Mike said to me, like, because we would talk every, when I was behind the bar with him, and he's like, all right, like, I know just the thing for you to come check out. And he told us about the Fight Gone Bad stuff. And I have like so many funny memories of like trying CrossFit at my school's gym and like not knowing anything. So like I remember like trying wall balls and like we weren't squatting. So we're doing like, I guess what you call like a push press wall ball now, where you're not dropping all the way or squatting below parallel. And I remember saying to each other, like, we're not supposed to like squat all the way down, right? Like, no, that would be ridiculous. Like, there's no way they're going to ask us to do that. And then like, lo and behold, that's how it's done. The rower was on the second floor of the gym. So we would row for a minute and then run downstairs to where we had like the other stuff set up. It was really funny looking back because we were like, training for it. But yeah, it was just a lot of funny memories with that.
Yeah, and again, with somebody, right? Like that's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest thing. I recommend anything, and that's the reason I love CrossFit. I recommend CrossFit. I've said it in other podcast episodes too. It's like CrossFit's community, right? That's how you get started. That's how you stay going, right? Yes. I mean, I would be so hit or miss, probably not even going nearly as often, if at all, if I didn't have CrossFit. All my friends are there. I met my wife through there, right? So it's like, it's so ingrained, but it's the community aspect, just like anything else, where it's like I'm going back mainly for that, not necessarily for the workout itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's super intimidating at first. I remember, like I said, like I was a young guy in my 20s, like who worked out. I was a bartender, like as much confidence as you could have, but I would not go to class at Generation for the first like probably month or two if Mike wasn't going to be there, because like I before I got to know everyone. But that's really what draws you in, is the community. And like, one, you're doing these like typically really hard workouts, so it's misery loves company kind of thing. That's one. And then just like it is like not a weird, it's a very unique thing. Like you said, you met your wife through. I met Melanie at SummerSlam when I was judging. That's how we met. Melanie's my wife. We've had after this November, we'll have had 8 weddings come from people that met at our gym.
Mhm.
Like it's such a community thing.
100%. And so, you mentioned when you first started, you were a little intimidated, right? CrossFit can be intimidating with, pull-ups and lifting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, even going from nothing to the gym at all, right? That can be intimidating step. Even just all the, there's all the dumbbells and different machines. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Obviously you went with other people. So were they already going? And that's what gave you the confidence to be able to go in and like get started? And I guess, like, what would you recommend for somebody who's looking to get started? Maybe they haven't worked out in a while or haven't done, maybe they did sports a long time ago, but what would you recommend for somebody looking to get started, whether that's just fitness in general or going to the gym in general, even CrossFit?
Yeah, when I started, I would go with Mike or I would meet Mike there, and he had been going there for probably a year or two at the time. And then the people that I became friendly with in the classes that I did, they had all been there for a long period of time. Like a bunch of Jenny Park, like all the OGs over there. And then just mostly from experience from people coming to my gym now, it can be incredibly intimidating because now, you have people that treat this sport like, I mean, I have, one person at my gym who's like trying to make, the next level, trying to make semifinals. So if they come in and they see her working out and what she's doing is much different than what they're going to be doing, but they don't know that yet. So they see someone, they come in and they got, 150 pounds over their head, and then they're walking on their hands, and then they're climbing this tall rope, and then they're swinging around the rings, and it can be super intimidating. So I would say my recommendation first in any fitness, I would find some type of group class or an instructor led small group class, because most people at no fault of their own just don't know what they're doing, and that can be really disheartening when you go to the gym for an extended period of time and you're trying to improve your health and like lose weight or whatever it may be, and you're not seeing any results just because you have no guidance and you don't know what you're doing. That's why people like us are around, like we are, professionals in what we do. And then something instructor led and something with that community, and go in with an open mind, and let the people at the place explain to you how the things work. Don't trust everything you see on the internet. Don't take that as gospel right away, because there's, like anything else, there's good restaurants, there's bad restaurants, there's good CrossFit gyms, there's bad CrossFit gyms. There's make sure you give it a chance and really test the waters too. If there's multiple gyms around you, see which one fits for you. What works for some people might not work for others, even if the gym is a good gym. So definitely be open-minded, and it really helps to find a friend that can do it with you, because that's the hardest part, is getting there. If you're starting from scratch, just getting there, getting in the door. The amount of adults that I've seen walk in my door and just look like, a kid on the first day of school at a new school, where they're like terrified. Like, I always tell them, like, look, you just walked in. That's the hardest thing you're ever going to do here. Like, you're going to meet all these really great people in class, and then you're going to want to come back. So, you did the hardest thing already. So it does help to have, like, even if your friend doesn't end up like joining with you, I've seen that, like, yo, you're coming with me, and then you can just like never come back. I don't care, but I need the support right now. That definitely always helps, whether they're like already into fitness or not. It just helps have like someone with you.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, get you in the door. The hardest
Yeah,
part is always showing up, right? Like,
absolutely.
that's one of the things, that piece of advice I always give people too, is like, just get your clothes on and go to the gym. If you don't even have to go in. Just get to the gym,
Mhm.
right? Most of the time when you get to the parking lot, you've already dressed. You're like, I might as well just go in, right? And then you
Right.
set your foot in the door, and then you do it, and you're like, I'm so happy I went. Like, it's just, the motivation's not always there, but if you just get there, you've done 90% of the work. And then you can go through the motions in the workout. You don't have to push yourself, whatever workout it is, whether it's CrossFit or bodybuilding or anything like that. Just get in and move and do something, and you're going to feel so much better.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it, results come before motivation. Like, you get motivated when you start to see results, and the results don't even have to be like a physical thing. You might just like, even after a week, like I like the way this feels when I go in and like even if it's bodybuilding, like I just like moving weight. It feels nice. Like moving my body through space. Like it, it makes me feel like I don't know, active and more human. Um, and once you start getting that feeling, that's usually what starts bringing people back. Ton of ups and downs once you get into it, but that's anything else in life. You're never gonna. I hate progress is never linear is like such a cliche, but it just isn't. And you got to kind of ride the wave, but you get that initial boost from your initial movement, and it keeps you coming back.
100%. And like you said, where it's, it's not linear, right? There's going to be bad days, there's going to be good days.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go, right, it's working through that. So, as you've been doing this for so long and you've tried so many different things, right? You did the sparring thing, right? You jumped into CrossFit, like
Mm-hmm.
there's ups and downs as that. How did you, outside of maybe community and friends, like, is there any other way that you have fought through some of those low points, the demotivation days, the days where you're plateauing? Like, what have you done, mentally to work through that and push through it?
Yeah, there's been, I mean, over the course of what is now a decade, like endless amounts of lulls. You lean on the community sometimes. I mean, a lot of times you lean on the community, like during the COVID shutdowns, I lost all motivation. And like, we were actually doing work on the gym at the time. Like, we used that as an opportunity to like redo the gym. So I was still there and I could have like, all right, after I'm done painting, I'm just going to like, do a workout. And I just, didn't want to at all. I had zero motivation to do it. Just wasn't that goes back to like the community thing. Even though I was in my gym with all the things that I needed, like at my disposal, without the people there, it just there was no drive for it. So back then we started doing, Zoom workouts together. Me and my wife would work out together at home, and just like, you have to lean on each other, and those other people probably need it too. So you're all, helping each other at the same time. There's just, I mean, I feel like you always have to remember that like every day, what you do that day doesn't define, what you're doing as a whole. Like, and I'm sure you've experienced like a bazillion times where like you have a lifting session and you can barely hit, your 85%, and you're like, do I suck now? Like, does this define how I am as a lifter? And you have to like really have those conversations with yourself. And that's, I think, the hardest stuff, because there's only so much you can do. Like you could do journaling, you could do a bunch of meditation, whatever it may be, but it still comes down to like the mind and being able to get in that headspace where like, all right, my current or my most recent like workout or whatever it may be, training session, doesn't define me. Like if I look at where I was 5 years ago, have I slowly made those incremental progressions and climbs? Like, okay, like I'm still on the right track then. And that also depends upon what your goals are. Obviously the pressure is going to be a lot higher if you want to treat CrossFit as a sport compared to as just a a health and fitness regimen, which is what it mainly is. But as we know, people can get really caught up no matter what they're treating it as.
Yeah, and like we said, kind of working through the mental game of it. That's always the biggest thing. And journaling is great too. Kind of reflecting on that. There's a book called The Gap in the Gain where you get so caught up in the gap of this is where I'm at and this is what I'm working towards, right? You use lifting as an example. I'm trying to hit a 225 snatch or something like that. Like that's where I'm trying to get to. And I have this bad day and I can barely do, 205 or, 185. And it's such a bad day. You're so focused on like, look at how far I am away from where I want to be rather than where I was 5 years ago or a year ago or 6 months ago, like how much further ahead you are there. So looking at it where I've come from shifts it to be more positive. Whereas like the gain, like the gap is looking to where you are or where you want to be and getting negative and down for it. So I think, that's, example of working through that mindset of when you have a bad day. And then like you talk about goals too, right? What is your goal? Is your goal just to show up every day? That's all you want to do. Then it doesn't really matter what kind of session you have. Like, yeah, it sucks to have a bad workout.
Yeah.
But your goal is just to show up every day. And if you hit that goal, the result will happen.
Yeah. Like I've had, members that never plan on doing a competition a day in their life still get down on themselves if they have like, a bad day. we still do benchmarks. We still run the old school benchmarks twice a year or once a year. I do once a year. And you have people that, like I said, no intention of ever doing a comp. If they do, it's like, just local stuff. They don't even plan on coming, in the top half. It's just like only for fun, but still get down on themselves. And then, you got to really take into account, like, there's so many factors on how you feel in the gym from day to day. Like, how'd you sleep last night? What'd you eat today? What'd you eat yesterday? Like, did you just get back from vacation? Like, a million factors. And a lot of times, like, even for me, I've had, like, looking at benchmarks, like, do you guys still use Wodify?
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, the graph on Wodify is like a fitness tracking software. My graph is never just a straight line down. Like, it's up and down and up and down and up and down. And I'm, 10 years in, and I'll still sometimes, we did Helen the other day, a couple weeks ago, and I jumped in and I tried so hard. I buried myself, and I was like 40 seconds slower than my best ever time. And that was good for me to use, like, not as ammo, but like, when members were getting upset, I'm like, hey, look, I just like died to go 40 seconds slower than I ever have. It's just that some days, some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. So I think kind of taking that into account too, where like there's so many factors in how you feel in the gym any given day that it's really hard to constantly have that comparison of your week to week, month to month, whatever, and really like zoom out and look at that big picture kind of thing.
Yeah, the big picture is the big thing, right? Even like when you're trying to gain weight or gain mass or lose weight, right? That graph, kind of like you said, it's up and down, up and down. But if you look at the long term, it's probably going in the direction as long as you're doing the work that you want it. And some days are just bad days, right? Or maybe you weren't 40 seconds slower, right? Maybe you just were crushing it that day, right? Maybe this is your baseline, right? And the other, you were just like, for whatever reason, everything was just dialed in. It's just day to day, and you just got to work through it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have any kind of, you've been doing this for so long, right? I know you do a lot of competitions. You're doing ours in a month. Do you have any, goals when it comes to health and fitness that you're working towards? And, if so, what are you kind of doing to hit those goals?
The goal I always like jokingly say, but I am like pretty serious, like half serious about it. Like, my goal right now is to like go to local comps and like not look like an idiot, essentially. Like, we do decent, well, like for the most part, but I just don't want to go and be like, what's he doing here? Like, what I mean? But you guys do a great job of like really, like, especially the workout you just released, like making it accessible to like everyone. So you're going to have like people of all abilities, obviously. And not that I'm like, a high-end athlete, like I'm, decent locally, I guess. But just to like, my goal is to show up and like, oh, that guy looks like he's okay. Like, that's what keeps me going. I do, like, I've recently started doing like an extra conditioning thing in the morning. Because I coach at 6 a.m. a couple of days a week. And typically there's like just a lull between the 6 a.m. and like when I have to really get to it for like office work and stuff. So I figured might as well, throw some extra conditioning in there while I'm at the, like we said, like my foot's already in the door. I am not a morning person. Even I've been coaching 6 a.m. for a long time. I still, I don't like waking up that early. And now this is the first time in my life that I'm working out that early, and it's only 7:30 in the morning. It's not super early, but stuff like that, and really like bringing yourself to just, it sounds so easy when you say it, but like it is so hard mentally. Like, you just need to do the thing. Like, there's been so many times where I'm like, all right, I'm here, but I don't feel like doing anything. I could just like, get right to work on my computer or like sit on the couch for a little bit, take a nap, whatever. But really just like getting the first like couple days and maybe like the first 2 weeks really get you in that routine where like that's the hardest part, is just like building that consistency until it becomes like, this is what I do at this time of the day. And like, that's just how it works. So I think that like building that routine And it's always like anything else. When you first start anything, the beginning is the hardest part. It might not be, learning a skill or lifting weights, but it's still hard to get in that routine. But once you get in that routine, it does make it a lot easier. And that's something I've added, and I've definitely, uh, benefited from it for sure with my goals. Like as an athlete, I am not a conditioning athlete. I'm a Fran kind of guy. Like give me something that's under 4 minutes and I'm happy. So to then do something that I actually hate doing in the morning has become like, a, a good like mental test. So when I go to do something that I don't like in the afternoon, when I'm used to doing stuff that I don't like, it's like, all right, this isn't as bad.
Yeah.
But that's definitely benefited, or I benefited from that a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I like pushing yourself into something a little more uncomfortable, right? You've been doing CrossFit for so long, so it's easy to, cherry pick the workouts that you want to do because it's stuff that you like to do.
Yeah.
And I've started implementing that too, doing a triathlon. Like I played soccer, so the conditioning is there. And honestly, I'd much rather be a person who has good conditioning and have to work on weightlifting because it's
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Running,
Yeah.
to get better at running, you just have to run longer and longer and longer, and it takes forever, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I hate running. I hate doing all that stuff, but trying something new and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, whether it's a different time of day or just a completely different exercise, like you said, makes everything that you're used to doing and that you enjoy doing a lot easier to get into. And it sounds like you're utilizing just like scheduling that time. Like this is the time that I'm going to do this, right? I could do something else, but if I put it on my calendar, treat it like a meeting or whatever it is, like I'm just going to do it, and it's going to suck, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And usually once you get started, it's like, okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah, for sure. Like every Monday morning for the past 8 weeks, I do a 45-minute zone 2 run. And like, for me, that's a miserable experience. Like I'm already slow as it is, and then I have to run intentionally slower. So you feel silly because I'm like, and I'm running outside. I'm like, cars driving by. They're like, "What's this idiot doing?" He's basically walking to keep my heart rate down, and it's like, I'm in like an industrial park kind of area, so like it's not very scenic. So there's like zero bit of me that wants to do that. Like there's nothing attractive about it at all, but it's just something that like I do now.
Right.
And I know it's good for me for like a number of reasons. So it's just, that's what I do now.
Yeah, once you build the habit, it just becomes your identity, right? Like, it's people identify you, and I know I get identified like, oh, I'm the fitness guy. I'm the guy that goes to the gym, and it's just like I don't know, it's just not non-negotiable for me at this point. I've been doing it for so long. It's just like, how can I fit this into my day? And it doesn't come easy, right? I've just been doing it my whole life, so I'm benefiting that aspect. But like you said, give it a couple weeks. Once you go consistently, it gets easier and easier and easier to just show up every day. It just becomes a part of who you are.
Yeah, like if anyone listening who like doesn't know me, which is probably going to be a majority of the people, like for me to run for 45 minutes every Monday morning, if I can do that, anyone can do anything at all. And that's something I use too, because I have, former athletes come in to the gym and they're like, this stuff's really hard. I'm like, I didn't start lifting weights till like I was 18. Like if I can do this, like anyone can.
Right. So moving from kind of health and fitness to, so you're owner of Raid. You were at CrossFit Generation for a while, my gym, and so I guess that's a big jump, right? To go from just working out at somebody's gym, obviously you have a passion for it, to opening up this gym, starting your own business. What was that process look like? What gave you the confidence to jump in and then get that thing going?
Yeah. So, like I said, like I was in school for business, and it was always kind of the back of my head that fitness was something I wanted to like maybe do for a profession. I've told this story before on like another podcast actually, that I've very like vividly remember getting home from an English 102 class at community college and being like, I don't know if I like, the idea of going to school for business. Because when you go to school for business, you're not thinking of like opening a gym as a business. You're thinking of corporate. And I remember going at home and Googling like median income for personal trainers to see if like it was something that was like feasible to live off of. And it just kind of like got, thrown away. And then I remember Barry saying to me, Barry, one of the owners of CrossFit Generation, when we were still in the original garage, so
Mhm.
forever ago, he said to me, he's like, something along the lines of like, you really like this stuff, you're going to open a gym someday. And so he could see it in me that I had the passion for it. When I was in grad school, we had to do a 5-year, not a mission statement, but like a 5-year plan essentially. And I had written how I was going to graduate uh, with my master's in HR, and for whatever reason, after that, I was going to open a gym. And I had it all laid out with a timeline. And then, like I've told this story before too, I found the USB drive that was on years after I opened the gym, and I ended up like doing exactly what I said I was going to do. So that was pretty
Mhm.
cool to see. Um, the confidence to do it, I don't know if it was so much confidence at the time as it was just like, skirting the line of like being a little naive, and just like maybe
Mhm.
overly confident with no reason to be.
Uh-huh.
Because looking back, the way I went about it, I wouldn't do it the same exact way.
Mhm.
I essentially, uh, I'd been bartending for so long and working for so long. I had a decent amount of money saved up. I was like, all right, gonna take my savings and open a gym and just like wipe my savings account out. Never even thought of like, oh, maybe like a business loan would be a good idea or something like that. Like zero thought of that. Um, and I started by myself. I do have a partner now. The majority of the time that Ray's been open, I've had a business partner now. But starting out by myself as a 24-year-old when I first started trying to open, um, like it was fun going on rogue with like my whole bank account at my disposal and just ordering stuff. Um, then like finding a location that was stressful. Finally found a location and started outfitting it with like the 4x4 post and the gas pipe rig, kind of how the old garage was. And then when it came time to get my zoning, my use and occupancy, found out it wasn't zoned for the right thing, so I had to go to the zoning board to get a variance. Um, when I went to do that, I had the variance hearing, and the councilman in that area of the city, this was in Northeast Philly at the time, sent someone to oppose my variance. 25-year-old opening a gym like in a garage in an industrial park. Don't know why.
Mhm.
So from the time I signed my lease to the time I actually opened the doors was 9 months,
Wow.
and it was a constant. It was Murphy's Law for 9 months. Like the local government shut down that winter, so like all my hearings got pushed back. So I was at like a standstill. Went through all that stuff. Found out finally the zoning board sided with me, and I got the variance. And then little did I know the councilman was then going to sue the zoning board and take
What did you
the
do to this guy? This
nothing.
girl?
I did. The old guy, I don't know. He like hated me for whatever reason. So he ended up suing the city. And then I found out like a year later that he was suing the city. Get a letter in the mail like, hey, you're due in court like tomorrow for this hearing on zoning. And I was like, so what, back and forth battle with that. Finally, after talking to some lawyers, they were like 50-50 shot at winning this. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to like move. So I had until the lease was like a year from the lease signing or whatever it was. And then my landlord actually ended up selling the unit I was in before that happened. So then I had 60 days to move the gym. So all this while this is a year and a half into opening, and like, opening a small business, you're not looking at like a lot of money coming in for the first maybe, 5 years.
Mhm.
So it was like, a speed bump, you could say, of a substantial size. Um, but yeah, I'll never forget my landlord called me and like, hey, I'm selling the unit. Do you think you'd be out in 60 days? I was like, I don't know, maybe. He's like, all right, well, you have to be. I was like, oh, okay. So at the time I was in a 2,000 square foot garage. The only place that we could find that was affordable is our spot now. For whatever reason, the 8,500 square foot warehouse we're in right now was the most affordable option at the time. So we moved our 2,000 square feet of, equipment and mats into there. So the gym was, majority cement. Um, and yeah, things, more stuff. I could go on forever about the whole process, but more bad things happen from there. And then things got better and back and forth. But we've made it. That's what eventually why I brought a business partner on, because I couldn't do it by myself. After all that stuff, going through all that pretty much alone, don't recommend at all. You try that. So if I were to, try it again, I would definitely start with maybe a partner and a loan as opposed to by myself in my savings account. But yeah, I mean, a lot of lessons learned, especially from, like I keep saying, I was a young kid at the time, like opening, a brick and mortar business when you're in your 20s with no experience. Like my only experience was going to CrossFit Generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know what the back of the house looked like at all. I'm just like, this shit's cool. I want to do it. So, yeah.
So all of those challenges that you go through, right? A year and a half, like wiping your savings account, getting all this stuff, like how do you like mentally work through that, like push through all that? Like how, you get through 6 months of that. Most people be like, screw this. Like it was a fun dream while it lasted. Like I'm done. Like how do you push through that?
I think a lot of it is, I did have people at the gym, like I did have members right from the start that like I felt like obligated to, almost like I'm helping these people, and like if I'm not here, they could go anywhere else, obviously, like but to me I was like, all right, if I'm not here, like I don't want to have to send them off. Like to me, and I'd be like I'm obviously not the best coach or gym owner like in the world, but I'd be a fool to like not say that like I think I'm the best option in my area. So like, am I going to send them to like what I deem as like not as good of an option? And a lot of like obligation to the people. Like, hey, like I'm doing, like if I'm just doing it for myself, I probably would have quit. I have all these people in my head, and it could have been completely made up in my head, but it's what it worked. I'm like, all right, I have these people counting on me, kind of thing. So yeah, like years of, I was still bartending during the week. There was times where I would go in to coach with very minimal sleep. I'm putting in 100 hours a week. I'm because the gym at first you're making money mostly to pay the bills, but I would pay my other coach at the time out of my pocket from money I was making working bartending. So like mentally, I think like even if it was like I don't think it was a lie that I was telling myself, but even if it was a lie that I was telling myself, like, hey, these people are counting on me. And it goes back to that community aspect. I'm like, I have this community. These people are counting on me. I can't let them down, kind of thing. And that like really, I think, is what helped me like kind of do whatever I need to do and like go through some really bad times to like just keep pushing through that and like not give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Community, right?
Yeah.
And accountability to your members, right? Like that's awesome to be able to do that and be like, this isn't for me, right? I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for somebody else. That's going to push me through it, but that it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And so like you found your business partner, right? Things are moving well. Like, how did you find him? Like, how did that happen? And like, what are the roles look like and how you guys are splitting up the business and how is that helping you kind of build up the business where it is now?
Yeah, so Sean is my business partner. He was actually one of my first members, and before that, he was actually one of my. He would frequent my bar on weekends, and like I knew him as the guy that drank a lot of Miller High Life. Didn't know his name, so it was really funny when he walked in the first day because he had called. He was like, "Hey, I want to come sign up for a year up front. Like, I need to like give you money so that I do this." And I was like, in my first 2 months as a gym owner, I'm like, oh, a check for like $1,000. This is amazing. So I'll never forget. He came in with his checkbook and we looked at each other. I was like, he's like, you're the bartender. I was like, you're the High Life guy. And so he was one of my original members. He has another business that he's had for a long time and is very successful. So he has a good business mind. And then we did have a third partner at one point. So when we did the move, and at that time I was like beyond burnout after dealing with all this crazy stuff, trying to get this business, off the ground. And probably at the time I didn't realize how much it was noticeable that I was like, didn't have the energy, like we best hour of their day, like kind of stuff for class. Like I wasn't be able to provide everything. So some stuff kind of happened. Not, I don't want to say stuff happened, but like we weren't getting new members in. Like, business wasn't going great. Couldn't afford rent. Like bad stuff. I remember one time I paid our electric bill with a gift card, a Visa gift card that I had gotten for Christmas. Like it was like very bad. And then still, I'm like, I need to figure this out. So I ended up, one of the guys that was coaching with me at the time, and then Sean, who's my business partner now, kind of approached like, hey, we want to jump in. And I was like, come on in. I need lots of help. So we had the three of us from 2017 to 2019, it was like January of 2017 to June of 2019. And then it's been just me and Sean since then. He is much more of the money financial guy. I am more of the day-to-day operations. I'm more of the front of the house, the people person, which I'm pretty good at. Like I've done that my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Sean's a great guy. If you were to see him on the street, you'd probably be terrified of him. He's like from Kensington. He has, I have tattoos, but he's got tattoos all over. He's a little bald. He's bald. He looks very angry all the time. Doesn't have the best fuse. Great guy though. So like it worked out well that like, I mean, he coaches and he, talks to members and members love him and everything, but it's just, we kind of like fell into our roles of, I do the programming. I'm the fitness guy. He's
Mm-hmm.
like the more of the business guy. He comes up with a lot of good ideas that helps the business. I do the same, and it works really well. There's no like competing thoughts really, which works out well. Not too many, because he knows if I'm saying something about like, the classes and the actual like fitness aspect of the business, like, all right, that's probably the way to go. I know if he's telling me like, hey, we should do this with, financially and do this and whatever, I know like, all right, he knows way better than me. I'm not going to try and step over that. So it works out really well.
Yeah, and it's important. Some of the partnerships that I've had in the past, doing some business stuff, was like, all right, find your superpower. Like, what are you good at? What are you the subject matter expert on? And
Mm-hmm.
finding your opposite to help counteract with that. Right. If you both
Right.
are really good at the same thing, that's when you're going to get those clashing ideas
Mm-hmm.
and those clashing thoughts, and that's when it's going to be an issue. But it sounds like you've found the person that's your complement to your skills, and that's what allowed the business to grow and become what it is now.
Yeah, for sure. And I like from the start, we knew like kind of, especially when it was just down to me and him, like we knew what our roles were going to be. And it has not changed since 2019, and, making it through COVID and all that, like nothing's really changed with the way the gym runs day to day, as far as like the back of the house and what we're each responsible for. And I'm lucky that he's the one that like came on, because it could have gone. I mean, especially in the fitness industry, like there's a lot of egos. And if you have someone else that's like, hey, I want to be your partner, and then they have a lot of competing ideas with how you want to do things, like it could get bad really fast, for sure.
Yeah. And it all wraps around, all right, having that partner to someone to do something with, a community aspect, that accountability with somebody else. So that makes things a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And so now that things have kind of settled in, you went through all of the startup portion of it.
Yeah.
You've got your partner. What are you guys looking to do moving forward? Like, how are you looking to grow? What are you looking to expand to? Moving forward.
Yeah. I think like we'll call it like our Disneyland dream is, and it would unfortunately require like, well, maybe one of the businesses in our building needs to, we'll say, not go out of business, but they've outgrown their space and they need to move. We would love to be able to take over another unit. Like we have a ton of space, but we want to be able to like just offer more, in terms of maybe more specialty classes, a recovery room type of area, all that. That's like the dream, to be able to expand into that and be like more of a one-stop fitness, shop. It's really funny, and I forget if I said it to you, when we initially talked about us hosting Brawl in the Burrs, but I had talked about for a while, like wanting to get back into hosting competitions.
Yep.
And that kind of just fell into my lap. So that worked out really well. So we'll be hosting that. I think there's a lot of stuff. I have a lot of ideas. I've recently just got diagnosed with ADHD, so I found out that, like, maybe there's a reason I have all these ideas that I have trouble like really like conceptualizing. But I've been better with that. So like implementing a nutrition program through the gym. Like I have a nutrition cert. I know you guys do great with that of generation. And I've done like nutrition coaching, on the side or whatever, but like actually implementing like a program through the gym to offer members, offering a more streamlined, like I have people that come to me for accessory work, having a more streamlined way to do that. Finding two things, helping people more and finding new, like more revenue streams.
Yep.
But being able to do that without it seeming like just a money grab. And I think that's a tough thing to do. Especially now, money's tight for a lot of people. Now it's coming from me. Like I genuinely want to help people as best I can, as much as I can. At the end of the day, it's also my job. So like, you have to pay for that help. But I do genuinely like, I want to help people more than I want that extra revenue, as like, that's probably not a good, business mindset to have, but that's just how I am. But trying to find a way to not make it seem like, hey, like I already get your monthly membership from you. Now I want this, this, and this. Now all of a sudden you're spending, X amount of your paycheck every month, at this one place. And really trying to find a way to like marry those two ideas without it being like, oh, he just wants, or they just want to get more money out of us kind of thing. And I think it's a tricky road to navigate. But that's something I really want to like implement sooner rather than later.
Yeah, create the verticals, and especially in the fitness industry, especially with CrossFit, right, where you're friends with all your members to a certain extent. I mean, probably most of them, right? I know we struggle at Generation with that too. Is like, how do we, we haven't raised rates in a year or two, but like everything else is getting more expensive. We just justify it by buying new equipment and all that stuff. And like I said, we don't want to price gouge anybody. We don't want to.
No.
But if they're going to be going somewhere else for nutrition coaching or PT or recovery anyway, like why not just have it all in one spot and charge them, sure, but give them more value than they're getting. And I think that's the struggle, like the mental struggle, like we have it too, where it's like we want to increase revenue, and we want to help people, but we're friends with them. So it's like kind of this weird dynamic of doing the right thing, but also knowing like this is also a business too. Like, I don't have that issue going to Home Depot, right? If they raise all their prices, like they don't care about me. I'm not friends with the manager of Home Depot.
Yeah, and it's I had this conversation the other day, like the fitness industry, and I think CrossFit in particular is such a unique like world and business in that way, where like you said, like not only am I trying to like I'm trying to bring in more revenue, so I need to get money from my members, more money from my members, but at the same time, like I've known some of these people 8 years. Like I've been to, weddings. I've like gone to their houses. Like they were at my wedding. They traveled up to Maine for my wedding. And, now I'm like, I want more money from you, but not because I just need the money. Like I do want to help you, but unfortunately the money is part of it. Paying for those services. So it's, and especially like in the fitness industry, there's so many like scammers out there that like there are people that are in it just for the money grab, and you really don't want to get mixed in with those people when like in your heart of hearts that you are doing things for the right reason to help people. Like it's not something that you want to get mixed in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, I think people can sense that too, right? I mean, the whole premise of you starting the gym was like not giving up when you went through all those challenges was for the people. And I think people can genuinely see that, like, and don't see it as a money grab. And, based on, you had the vision of opening the gym, right? You found that, what you had written down before and you made it happen, right? I have no doubt that however you figure out to increase that revenue stream and then add the things to the components that you want to add, that I think you'll do it, right? Having the vision is super important, whether it is business or fitness and whatever you want to accomplish there. Like, this is where I want to be, this is who I want to be. And as long as I do it from a place of help and leading with value, that people will come and people will appreciate it, and people will pay whatever it costs to get to their vision, just like you're willing to put whatever work in it is to get to your vision.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think people can tell. And it might take time for people to be able to tell. Like I don't expect anyone to come in off the street and just trust me right away. But like over time, people can definitely tell who a person is for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So this has been great. I appreciate it. Where can people, get in contact with you? If they're in the Philly area, right? Maybe they want to stop in. What's the best way to get in touch with you and get in touch with your gym?
Yeah. So me personally, probably on Instagram, Raid Coach _J on Instagram. The gym also on Instagram at CrossFit Raid RAID. And then probably the best way to contact the gym directly would be via email, which is just crossfitraid@gmail.com. We do have a business phone, but I never give the phone number out because no one's ever at the desk, really. We're always running around.
Nobody wants to call anyway.
Yeah, right. People, the phone rings, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a spam call or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I'll include all that stuff in the show notes after this so people can easily find you.
Cool.
Justin, I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah,
And I hope you have a great day. And everybody, thanks for listening. Check out the other episodes and future episodes that we've come and talking fitness, real estate, entrepreneurship, and how all those commingle together and kind of build on each other. So thanks for listening.